In the bustling heart of New York City, where million-dollar galleries line the streets and critics dictate the rise and fall of careers, a story was quietly waiting to be told. A story about a man nobody noticed. A man who didn't own a home, a bed, or even a steady meal. To the world, he was invisible, another forgotten soul, huddled in the shadows of alleys. But hidden in his hands and buried in his past was a secret so powerful, it would one day shake the very foundations of America's art world. This is the story of a homeless artist whose secret painting shocked critics and rewrote history. On a bitter January evening, the streets of Manhattan shimmered with the golden glow of storefront lights. People in heavy coats hurried past, clutching their coffee cups, avoiding the bone-cutting wind that sliced through the avenues. And there he was, a frail figure, wrapped in a patchwork of rags and an oversized military jacket that had seen better days. His beard was overgrown, his eyes hollow, yet his hands told another story. Even in the cold, even as they trembled, they were steady, focused, always searching for something invisible in the air. His name was Ethan Cole, though few remembered it. Once, long ago, Ethan had been a student at one of America's most prestigious art schools. A prodigy, they had called him. But life had not been kind. When his mother passed away suddenly, Ethan spiraled. The weight of medical bills, the collapse of family support, and his own battles with depression dragged him to the streets. For over a decade, he had lived in alleys, under bridges, and in shelters when luck allowed. To most, he was just another homeless man. To him, he was a ghost trapped between who he once was and who he could no longer be. Most pedestrians never looked his way. Some tossed coins. Others muttered curses if he got too close. But one night, something different happened. A young woman named Rachel Monroe, a graduate student in art history at NYU, stopped in front of him. She had been rushing home from a late-night library session, papers spilling from her backpack. And then she noticed Ethan, not his torn jacket or his unwashed hair, but the way he was moving his fingers in the air, as if sketching invisible lines only he could see. "You draw?" she asked softly. Ethan looked up, startled. His voice cracked from disuse. "Used to," he muttered. Rachel, sensing the fragility of the moment, reached into her bag and pulled out a small sketchbook. She placed it on the ground in front of him, along with a graphite pencil. "Then show me," she whispered before hurrying away. That night, under the flickering light of a broken street lamp, Ethan Cole picked up the pencil. And for the first time in years, he drew. The following week, Rachel returned. She found the sketchbook half filled with drawings, not rough doodles or random lines, but breathtaking sketches that seemed alive. A mother holding her child in an alley. A businessman's face, hardened by greed. A lonely street violinist playing under a neon sign. Every page told a story of New York, raw and unfiltered. From the eyes of someone who lived in its forgotten corners, Rachel couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had studied the works of Picasso, Pollock, Basquiat, but Ethan's drawings carried a haunting truth. They weren't just pictures. They were confessions. "Who are you?" she asked him one evening. Ethan's gaze dropped. "No one," he whispered. "Just a man who lost everything." But Rachel knew better. She saw the spark of genius buried beneath layers of dirt and despair. And though Ethan didn't know it yet, his life was about to change. Weeks turned into months. Rachel continued visiting Ethan, bringing him supplies, pencils, brushes, cheap acrylics. She watched him work on scraps of cardboard, old newspapers, and discarded wooden boards he scavenged from construction sites. But then, one rainy night, Ethan revealed something he had hidden for years. Deep inside a storage locker, paid for with the few dollars he had saved, lay a single canvas. It wasn't large, but it was unlike anything Rachel had ever seen. The painting depicted a woman in despair, seated on the steps of a broken church, her face buried in her hands. Around her swirled a storm of faceless men in suits, their shadows looming like demons. The brushstrokes were chaotic yet deliberate, the colors dark but alive with emotion. It was raw, terrifying, beautiful. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. "Ethan, this is extraordinary." His hands shook as he stared at the canvas. "I painted it the night my mother died," he said. "I never showed it to anyone. Too much of me is in it." Rachel knew instantly, this painting wasn't just good. It was revolutionary. It captured the despair of the forgotten, the cruelty of society, and the silent scream of millions who lived in the margins. And she also knew, if critics ever saw it, they wouldn't just be shocked. They would be silenced, but Ethan refused. "No," he snapped when Rachel suggested showing it to her professors. "They won't understand. To them, I'm just a homeless man. They'll call it luck or worse. They'll call it trash." Rachel tried again and again, but Ethan would not budge. The painting to him was a piece of his soul. And souls were not for sale. Yet Rachel couldn't shake the thought. The world needed to see this. It wasn't about fame or money, it was about truth. And deep down, she believed that art had the power to change lives. So she waited. And watched. One cold February morning, fate intervened. A well-known gallery owner named Victor Harrington happened to stroll past Ethan's alley while scouting the neighborhood for gritty inspiration. Harrington was infamous in the art scene, a man with sharp suits, sharper words, and an ego that towered over Manhattan skyscrapers. When his eyes landed on Ethan's cardboard sketches, he stopped. "These yours?" Harrington asked. Ethan nodded warily. The gallery owner chuckled. "Not bad for a street doodler." He tossed a $20 bill at Ethan's feet. "Keep it up, Picasso." And just like that, he walked away. Ethan clenched his fists, humiliated. But Rachel saw something else, a door cracking open. Harrington had noticed. If they could just get him to see the secret painting, everything could change. That night, Ethan sat alone in his alley, staring at the rain pooling in the gutter. His stomach ached from hunger, his body from cold. He thought of his mother, of the promise he had once made her. "I'll make you proud. Mom, one day they'll know my name." But here he was, nameless, forgotten. His eyes drifted to the storage locker key in his pocket. The painting called to him. He knew Rachel was right. But the fear was louder. If he showed it, and they rejected him, it would destroy the last fragile piece of hope he carried. If they mocked him, there would be nothing left. And so for days, he avoided Rachel. He avoided the canvas. He avoided the possibility of being seen. Then came the night that changed everything. Rachel found Ethan collapsed near the subway entrance, shivering, barely conscious. She rushed him to a shelter, sat beside him through the night, and whispered words of hope. "Ethan, you're not invisible. You matter. Your art matters. Let me help you." For the first time, he saw not pity in her eyes, but belief. Pure, unshakable belief. The next morning, with trembling hands, Ethan pressed the locker key into Rachel's palm. "Show them," he whispered. "Show them the truth." Rachel stared at the key, her heart pounding. She knew what this meant. She would be carrying Ethan's soul into the lion's den, the brutal, unforgiving world of art critics. And somewhere in the shadows, fate was watching. Because once that painting saw the light of day, nothing in Ethan Cole's life or in America's art world would ever be the same again. To be continued.